what is also extraordinary is how much the conversation is about culture wars. And yeah, culture wars are very relevant when you're talking about things like, Islamist extremism and the like. And it seems to me that Rishi Sunak has gone down in the polls. And some people, it's interesting, the Evening Standard in London has interpreted this as they've gone down in the polls after recession figures recently, by-election losses for the Tories, and they quote, Lee Anderson's Islamists rant against Sadiq Khan. It wasn't a rant. It was also against Keir Starmer as well. But also, he's gone down in the polls not because of what Lee Anderson said. He's gone down in the polls because he punished Lee Anderson for what he said. That's why he's gone down in the polls.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that agreed with, if it wasn't necessarily the wording of Lee Anderson, but certainly the sentiment that was behind it. Absolutely, and that's why I think it led the Prime Minister to making that press conference that he did at the end of the last week to say that actually some of this, the protests, some of the language that you hear in the protests on a Saturday afternoon, particularly in London, but around the country...
But does anyone believe him? OK, so he says he's concerned about it, but if you're not taking any action against it, you're not dealing with it, and you haven't dealt with it for months on end, why would anyone believe him?
Well, that's where the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have hopefully got to be able to demonstrate that they are dealing with it. And so tomorrow they'll have the opportunity at the budget. I think we will see more of the Prime Minister, I think, in the weeks and months ahead, delivering or telling the country that he's delivered on his plan. But also, yes, you're right, it can't just be about big set-piece statements outside the steps of Number 10. It's about making sure that you see on Saturday afternoon...
people will be having their tea or they'll be in the pub. I mean, that's where I was on Friday night. He was making the speech, watched it in the morning. I don't think people notice a lot of these things, frankly, a lot of the time. And no wonder we've seen, many would argue, the election of George Galloway as the new MP for Gaza. Sorry, Rochdale, so easy to make that mistake. Let's have a watch and a listen of what he said after he was sworn into Parliament yesterday. And he did a press conference outside of Parliament where he made, the most extraordinary claim. Here's what he said.
If the by-election had been in February of 1940 or 41, would anyone seriously have condemned me for putting the crimes of the Holocaust at the centre of my election campaign?
Once again, there's George Galloway, because it's always about bigging up his role. He's a man standing firm against, you would call the Holocaust genocide. He's quite clearly there drawing a comparison between the crimes of the Nazis against Jewish people and many others during the Holocaust and what the Israeli government is doing in Gaza. I think it's an absurd, ahistorical, unfactual, immoral thing for him to claim. It's been claimed also by Jewish groups that it's actually anti-Semitic for him to draw, Basically, you don't need to draw comparisons with the Holocaust. The Holocaust happened, there are plenty of other things you can draw comparisons with. You don't need to. It's quite clear that that's factually wrong. That's what we've got ahead with George Galloway. That's what people voted for in Rochdale last Thursday. Should that be a worry to the government, or is that more of a threat, say, to Labour?
I think it's a worry to everybody. Look, the government has prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organisation. It is a terrorist organisation. It committed an atrocity on the 7th of October, entering Israel.
Do tell the BBC.
And those that don't want to listen to it, actually, and those are the people that don't accept that, including George Galloway, I think... to be in the position that he is in now in Parliament, with parliamentary privilege, to be able to get up and stand up on those green backbenches and say effectively what he wants, which will, I think, still distort the debate when there is progress, or should be progress being made in terms of getting aid into Gaza, where this government, under whatever you think about David Cameron, I think he's visited the region more than most. He's gone further than perhaps the Labour Party to suggest that there should be.
There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes as well.
Exactly, but the government is doing all that it can to have George Galloway making those kinds of remarks outside Parliament, having been elected again. As you say, equating the Nazi Germany regime to an Israeli state is just plain wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, that's it. That's the summary. It's just plain wrong. Exactly.
And the people of Rochdale, as you were about to say, the people of Rochdale have got this guy as an MP who fought the campaign on this issue on its own, nothing to do with schools, education, the health service, the economy or working people.
Well, it depends who he sent the leaflets to, as we discussed on the show yesterday. But however, probably not an MP for very long for Rochdale, because I don't think he's ever, since he left Labour, since he was thrown out of Labour, I don't believe he stood for different parties and many different seats. He's failed to win a couple of seats. The seats he has won, he has never actually kept that seat because, funnily enough, people see through him once they realise that George Galloway is really the MP, as I keep saying, for George Galloway. But there we are.